Hello. Hi there. Welcome to an art live stream. I'm showing you the tools that I have so that you know that this really will be an art live stream. My name is Chris. Welcome to a live stream. I'm starting about almost 4 minutes late because I had to reboot my unhelpful little PC. But hello to some folks in the chat. That's very nice. Let's see. I hope there's no pending updated. I don't think so. I think everything's working fine now. Yes, a draw stream. In fact, I'm going to add a camera so that we can actually see what I draw. Add that. Oh, and I need to change my background there because this is... I recorded an episode of Trash Movie Bonanza this morning, but this is a pros and cons live stream. There we go. There we go. Let's see. Yeah. And I'm just going to change the layout so that it's a little closer there. Adjust things. Anyway, yeah, I just felt like drawing. Well, I didn't just feel like drawing. Would that it would be so simple. Hello, Moritaka. Lovely to see you here. So this is basically a commission, which I don't take many of because I'm very busy. But this is different because it's for a friend. Hi, here I am. My friend Vincent. I'm gonna sort of shift myself. Bear with me as I fiddle with my camera. My friend Vincent made a role-playing game. I'm really impressed and proud of him. He spent a long time play testing this, adjusting the rules, etc. And I just think it's the coolest thing ever. I was encouraging him for a long time on this, and I'm just, yeah, it's really cool. So he already had a successful Kickstarter for basically a digital release of this game. And now, because it's so successful, he's creating a print edition. And I wanted to help with that, so I agreed to do an illustration for one of the pages, which is the game. I'll put a link in the description once I finish with everything. But the game is called Street Wolves, and it's sort of set in a version of the 1980s. More like a fictional 1980s, like a little bit, well, it's like synthwave infused and stuff, like this was a game that started. He was giving some thought to making sort of a game that would be like a G.I. Joe role-playing game. And I really thought that actually had a lot of promise to it. But it sort of morphed and evolved to encompass more 80s things until it got a little closer to maybe like Miami Vice meets Blade Runner type thing. Not that futuristic, but like some of that like influence. Yeah, I just thought that sounded really, really cool. So when he asked, would I be willing to potentially do a drawing? I was like, well, I've been like pushing you to make this forever. So it would be kind of hypocritical of me to be like, no, you spent years making this, but no. So I'm excited. Really excited. Darn it. I just realized I have literally an official t-shirt for his game. That's what I should have been wearing. Oh, well. Hindsight, am I right? So I'll give you an extra $5 to add eyes like Turbo Teen. $5. $5 to ruin the page, eh? I'll pass, but thank you for the opportunity. No, let me explain what I'm doing here, because I put some real thought into how I want to approach this. He wanted a shot for sort of like the story or whatever that he's setting up of somebody looking in their rear view mirror, and it was like, just a 1980s street. So just maybe make an 80s car, or maybe put some like 80s stuff in the back. It's not overly important. The colorist will do some of the lifting there. The colorist will do some of the lifting, but I did put some real thought into what this is, which I know doesn't seem like a lot to this, but I actually did put a lot of thought into this because this isn't a comic per se. This is a spot illustration for a role-playing game. So I intentionally was like, okay, I don't want to actually draw for this any faces because it's not a character piece. It's a setting, and I wanted whoever's playing the game to be able to sort of get a vibe and atmosphere, but not be taken out of the story because, like any characters don't match up with what they look like or who their friends are. So I'm going to have like, the person in here is in shadow and the person's adjusting their rear view mirror so that it's showing what's behind, but you're not really seeing the person. Otherwise, you'd probably be seeing a face here a lot of times. But anyway, hopefully that makes sense. I'm just saying I put some thought into what I'm doing here. And I didn't put a badge here, but essentially what I decided to do is there's obviously a lot of 1980s cars you could go for. I decided to go for one that at least hasn't been overexposed in American media, which is the Toyota Corolla AE86 Trueno, which is famous to a lot of us nerds because it's the main car of Initial D, a really cool manga. But I don't feel like it's a car that we've seen in American media as much as like, I could have put in something that was like a DeLorean knockoff or something along those lines. But I wanted to do something that I hadn't seen in American media much. So anyway, like I'm just explaining all the background decisions that I've made to get this far. I've got a little sort of mock-up here. I'm probably not going to be able to draw this entire illustration in just one live stream, but what I'm hoping to do is at least sort of get the basics of the car itself, and then I'll sort of work on the other details as I go on. Like I just imagine this will take a while if I'm going to do it right. So this might be a live stream where occasionally I get a little quiet, and if I do, the only reason really is that I'm getting lost in the craft, getting lost in the process itself. It is not that I'm trying to ignore anybody in the live chat. I really appreciate having folks here. It kind of gives me another something to focus on and helps me get lost in the vibe. I'm also making a conscious decision here, and these might not be the right decisions, by the way, but I am putting thought into it. I'm making a decision to do the car in technical pens because I want to try to have the line work fairly precise. I'm not using exclusively rulers, but I want like sort of thin, precise mechanical lines for the car. And then I'll probably use something like some brushes or brush pens for like, the mirror and the hand and stuff like that, if that makes sense. Thank you for a super chat. Didn't expect that. Stopping by for your thoughts on Kumail Nanjiani playing Booster Gold, more or less confirmed rumor that came out just now. I would love that if that's the case. Kumail is, I'm a huge Kumail fan. I'm trying to think like this, like maybe like 15 years ago or something like that. I had him on a podcast I used to do about first-person shooters. Kumail was still pretty much just he was a stand-up comedian. He didn't have a lot of acting roles behind, but he had stand-up and he would joke about video games and stuff. So it was a good fit. He was really good guest. That was really awesome. And to see his career explode ever since then has been really awesome. I just think he's really, really talented and really hardworking. He's been a guy that always has impressed me. So, yeah, Booster Gold, that's different, but I totally get behind it. But, I'm also a guy who's going to be biased. And, you tell me that you want Kumail to play anything, and I'll go, he could do it. He can do it. That's interesting. Yeah, that's the first I'm hearing of it. So I don't know what the source is, but if that's real, I'm totally down. Totally down. Yes, yes, exactly. I don't think we have it up anywhere anymore. I haven't thought to look in a long time, but we did a Call of Duty podcast, some friends and I. We literally played a lot of Call of Duty with each other. So, um we were like, let's just do a podcast about it. Anyway, just had Dan Jurgens sign my Booster Gold 1 at SummerCon. That's awesome. Look at that. Hey, Christopher, nice to see you. If you folks are looking for a comic book channel that covers stuff that I don't really get as much into, I think that Bronze Age Nerd is a really nice channel. Does a lot of stuff on the collecting aspect of the hobby, which I don't consider myself as much of an expert on. I might know more than the average person, but it's just not the area that I focus on, but I still find it interesting. So anyway, nice to see you here. Circuitron, nice to see you again. Been forever since I've drawn a proper car. Can I ink along at home? Yeah, of course you can. The picture that I posted, it might be at a weird angle, so it might skew things. No, it wasn't on YouTube. It was like just uploaded to all sorts of it was an audio podcast. It was called Joint Ops, and I really couldn't tell you what episode number I had Kumail on, but he was really nice. Exactly, yes. I'm going to take a lot of credit for that. Danny, lovely to see you. I love drawing, man. I don't draw as fast as you, my friend. Boy, it's been. I keep leaning out of frame. There's not much I can do about that. Anyway, Danny had a nice comic come out this week, folks. He has been teaming up with Philip Kennedy Johnson, really talented writer. First, he did a bunch of fill-in issues of the Hulk, and I have to imagine that went over well because this week, Danny drew the Blood Hunt Hulk tie-in. Sort of an old West, well, it's set in the West, so just a really cool issue of the Hulk. The Hulk right now is, in my opinion, a really strong run. It's Hulk versus monsters. All sorts of monsters are drawn to attack him. But it's very flattering that you're here on any level, Danny. I really appreciate that. My 5-year-old daughter wanted to let you know you're an excellent drawer. She likes your Baroness quite a bit. I do too. Thanks, man. That's so nice. Yes, it does. Oh, very cool. Very cool. Erwin, lovely to see you. Erwin is part of the Ink and Drink Long Beach crew down in Southern California. Just a bunch of, sort of more indie artists that meet up, hang out, draw, and then actually have put together a bunch of their work. They did a cool Ninja Turtles jam book that I absolutely love. What the premise is so smart. They redo issue number 1, like everybody does a page in their style, and some pages there's more than one version of that page. It's so cool because I think Ninja Turtles are an incredibly versatile property that have proven to be so, with all sorts of interesting updates and revisions and stuff like that. There's all sorts of, and anyway, Erwin and his crew there did a great book. So if you look up on like Instagram or something, Long Beach Ink and Drink, great book. They've got a couple others, but that's one I really like. I can't say that I'm like the best I've ever been, but I'm better than I was a couple weeks ago. And some of that is it's been sunny here. I don't love the heat, but the sun literally does me well. It charges me up like Superman. It's good for my mental health. So that's been good. And I think personally, art is good for me, and I think for a lot of people. I think that art therapy is very, very real. When you can create something with your own two hands, however you do that, I really think that it's healthy for your brain. It lets you sort of dissociate in a sense, and just separate the things that are stressing you out and focus on creating. And I think creation is just a really positive act, that also helps unite us in terms of common interests. We could be at completely different ends of political or religious spectrums, but there's every chance in the world that we could love the same songs, the same comics, the same movies, the same foods. I think it's really, really cool. Yeah, art and comics can chase the blues away. It's really helped me. Oh, yeah, yeah. Sean and Jim, you guys, some of you know Jim Mafood now because he does Trash Movie Bonanza with me. And some of you hopefully know him from his comics. But he has started doing a weekly live stream with his buddy Sean Crystal, also a super talented artist. They have a theme every week, and they go for 2 hours or so, just like this. But the one thing that's nice, they can focus more on the art and the conversation because our editor Jamie is sort of the producer there. He's all the way out in Scotland, probably like middle of the night for him, but he hosts the live stream and cuts between the angles of the camera on Jim or Sean and their art camera, and tells them about stuff in the chat room so they can just sort of knuckle down and really draw. The one they did this week was great. The theme was Ninja Turtles, and again, like Ninja Turtles, just something that everybody kind of ends up with their own take on. It's strange how even when you're sort of doing somebody else's take on Ninja Turtles, you end up sort of creating your own version because they've got a complex design. The Ninja Turtles are, in my opinion, not an easy design. Parts of it are, but especially if you want to make them look different from each other, there's a lot going on there. Their heads are not like any other heads. Their musculature is somewhat similar for arms and legs, but not the hands, not the feet, not the chest. The back is that shell. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. So, we've got folks in here like, Erwin Papa, I told you, has that book with his group. Danny Earls is in here. He just did a cover for the Ninja Turtles reboot. Just amazing. Yes. I was on two of my friends' shows very briefly this week. So one of those was Owen Likes Comics out in beautiful merry old England, asked if I would just be willing to read a pair of quotes for his episode about Jim Shooter. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. That sounds like a blast. So yes, I'm always up for doing a little voiceover type work. That's not a heavy lift. And then I've got a friend, Kevin, who has a toy channel called Peg Warmers. And he was going to review a specific 1988 Destro figure, and I gave about 2 minutes. It's pretty quick, but about 2 minutes of my thoughts on that figure because it is one that I actually had. Probably should have been too old for it, but I did have it. Big G.I. Joe fan here. Big G.I. Joe fan. I'll talk to the ends of the earth about how cool G.I. Joe is and how it really is for everybody. But anyway, yeah, good catch. They are. Have any advice on finding a story for a comic? Because I have a character named Atomic Shrimp I want to make a comic about, but I'm not sure how. You know what I mean? Any advice for finding a story? You mean you want to draw and you need somebody to partner as the writer? I mean, there's a lot of writers looking to find an artist to work with. So I would just say, like, just about any social media platform should help you find a partner there. Yeah. Thanks for the interesting chats and questions, folks. I appreciate it. I actually do not love drawing cars. I will say that. I think that I'm going to be able to make this one come out kind of cool, but cars are tricky. I don't mind architecture, but architecture has much more clear-cut rules of, like, laying out the perspective and filling in the architectural details. And you're going to have to sort of probably at least look at reference. I don't have the memory to, like, memorize different styles of architecture, but architecture is architecture. Cars have a lot of different curves and lines to them, really. If you break, and it's tricky. Yeah, it's tricky. Oh, well, look, I'm not just saying this to say this, Danny. You're fantastic at architecture. It's definitely one of your strong suits. Love some of it's amazing to me. I know you've, like, lived here in America and stuff, but, like, your versions of, like, Pittsburgh and New York City look so authentic. I'm like, did this guy, like, live here for 5-6 years? Just amazing. Like, you really did a great job on the Ninja Turtles, like New York, the No One Pittsburgh. Just fantastic. Hey, peg warmers. I was just saying that I participated in your current episode. I definitely recommend folks check that out. Kevin does a deep dive on Destro, who's a really interesting G.I. Joe character. Brady, I agree. I should get back to drawing, but I am a big fan of the fact that Instagram and a few other places have made process videos become a little bit the norm for artists to share. Not just the finished result, but literally the process of creating it. I love process videos. To me, it's the closest I'm going to come to having original art by a lot of these people. I find it fascinating, endlessly fascinating, to be honest, to just watch quick videos of how people decide to approach certain aspects of drawing. Really, really interesting. I would say I'm a little bummed out that it's become somewhat necessary for artists to sort of show their work to prove that it isn't AI. I'm a little bummed about that aspect of it, but I love getting to see these process videos. Just so cool. Shuichi Shigeno. I don't know Shuichi Shigeno. It's a unique style with something that could look so ordinary but turns out fantastic. I'm trying to see. Lately, the manga artists that I'm becoming really interested in, darn it, I don't have one of them here, but the artist that does Dan to Dan, and I believe the artist was one of the assistants on Chainsaw Man, but really has an interesting style. Hey, Gene, hope you're doing good with Dad. Nice to see you. Thanks for visiting and helping out there. That's nice. Very nice to see you. Let's see. As a writer and not at all an artist, process videos and time lapses and stuff are basically sorcery to me. They're really fun. What are your thoughts on Exo, Manowar, and Valiant as a I assume you mean whole? Seems like a wasted universe with a lot of potential. I don't know about wasted. They are good characters. Those are good characters, and I think that the business side of Valiant has, its history is basically just up and down. And I feel for the writers and artists who are just trying to put out interesting, cool stories. I feel for them. Yeah, I like both of those characters. I like a bunch of the Valiant characters. Uh, Someday I'll have to make an episode about its, rise and fall and rise and fall and rise and fall, because that is the history of Valiant. And it's wild to me to think that they've got that level of history now, but they do. Trying to just sort of, I haven't done this a lot. I'm not a professional artist. I'm trying to come up with something that like shows maybe a wet street here. I think that that's going to be really important to creating the tone of this piece. Is the idea of a wet street. I'm specifically not this would make life easier for me if I was drawing this at night. If I was drawing it at night, a lot of this background stuff could be silhouetted, and it's like a cheat, but a fair cheat, because it would look right. But I thought about it, and I don't think tonally that would make sense for this piece. I think if anything, it should be at dusk. So I have to like be sure to leave some details that the colorist can latch onto and play around with. But I do want a wet street. I think that that's just, boy. Hey, you gonna make a film out there? Do one thing: wet the street before you film. It's just gonna look cooler. It just is. That little bit of reflection, whether it's day or night or whatever, that bit of reflection is always going to look incredible. Oh, if you aren't already members of my Patreon at $2 and above, currently have access. The new comic tropes is up, and I'll just tell you, it's about Mike Zeck, a really important artist to me that helped me start to notice a style and start like becoming not just somebody that was reading a couple comics, but like actively seeking out cool looking comics. So yeah, I've got a new episode up. If you can't afford that, I understand. That's why eventually it goes free for everybody. But if you can't wait and you can afford $2 a month, I appreciate the support, and that's there for you. I'm also giving some thought to doing some like small, like exclusive things that wouldn't require editing. Like I'll just talk certain things through. For instance, I recently came across a picture book from Japan. I say picture book. I'm not talking about for kids. I'm saying it's a written book, but every page has illustrations, really deep, dynamic illustrations. And in my opinion, it's almost a comic. It's almost a comic. What's fascinating about it, though? You're like, okay, so what? A book with pictures. Got it. I've seen that since I was born. Yes, you have. This was made in 1861, and it's about the American founding fathers. Again, like think about this in the historical context. All of that was from secondhand accounts. In 1861, Japan was so insular. Just yes, they were trading with like the Portuguese and stuff, but basically they weren't interacting with the outside world. But they were fascinated. The people were fascinated with what was going on in the world. So 1861, this guy decides to write a book based on the accounts of other writers and people who have visited doing trading missions to like explain who's George Washington, who's John Adams, and decided to make a book about these people. But it gets crazy fast. The illustrator had never seen what a white person looks like, any sort of European white person, so they're all drawn like Japanese people, but that's just because zero reference. 1861, folks. This was 7 years before the Meiji Restoration begins. And if you don't know, like that was where the government finally, after a period of like just civil wars forever across Japan, a fascinating point of history between, like the shogunate and the emperor. There was samurai and stuff. Really fascinating period of history, but essentially plagued by civil wars, as like the military and the government. Well, it was all trying to be government. I'm just saying, like, the feudal class system and more modern people, they were all just fighting. Really, really crazy, like crazy stuff. Meiji comes in and unites the country finally and starts opening up their borders to learn more about the outside world. But this book was written 7 years before that. Okay, so now you've got some of the history. Wait till you hear about this, though. So I'm looking at this. I found it on a Japanese university's website. They host the whole book digitally, so I could like look at it. And it's all sort of like handwritten, and my Japanese is like real slow. I can read some of it, but I'm slow. Okay, but I did it to test myself because I thought the illustrations were dynamic and interesting and cool. But they're crazy. You've got like Ben Franklin is like carrying a cannon on his shoulder, or holding it, I guess, and shooting it like a bazooka. And they've got George Washington stomping on a tiger, and it's meant to be very literal. And he's defending his wife, Carol, George Washington's famous wife, Carol. But the best part is John Adams is out having a picnic with his mother. And then he gets distracted by how beautiful everything is. And while he's looking away, a massive snake eats his mother. So he goes to a ferry. John Adams goes to a ferry and begs for vengeance, which comes in the form of a gigantic eagle. And John Adams and the eagle team up and kill this giant snake. And they were presenting this as like, this is the kind of crazy stuff that's going on in this new world. Just amazing. So I need to read more about it to see how literally they meant it to be taken and find some other crazy pages. But that's the kind of thing I might start doing on my Patreon if I can just carve out a little time to just sit down and talk. Kind of like this, but just for my patrons. I'm leaning towards doing, for my next comic tropes, a true crime story that just happened, like two true crime stories actually, that just happened to involve comic book collections. I know that's a little different, but I really think that they're interesting, and I don't think that they'd be covered or discussed anywhere else. So that's something I'm strongly considering, just to do something kind of new and challenge myself to do something different. We'll see. That's what I'm currently thinking about. I think it would be fun and interesting. This is what they don't teach you in history. That sounds amazing. What's the book called? Oh, I can look up the book name. Oh, I know, Gene. Like I say, there was no internet or anybody to call. You just had to rely on secondhand description. So it becomes a game of telephone where the stories kept changing. Yeah, that's what's funny about it. Hold on, I'm gonna find the name of the book, and you can look it up yourself if you're curious. Does that sound fun? I think that sounds fun. Anybody see the new Captain America 4 trailer? I'm cautiously optimistic. I felt like it looked like tonally kind of a little bit of Winter Soldier, some political intrigue. I want it to be good. Who knows? But I want it to be good. Where is that? I know I wrote it down somewhere. Oh, here it is. Hold on. I'll write it down on a piece of paper here so that you can see what I'm talking about. The name of this book is Osane Toki Banko Kubanashi. Osanai Toki Bankoku Banashi. Or A Japanese Illustrated History of America, 1861. So if you want to look that up, the entire book is hosted on, I don't have the address in front of me, but there's a Japanese college or university. Daigoku? And anyway, I was trying to see if I had the name of the writer, but I don't think I have that in front of me. Anyway, yeah, there's a Daigaku that has it, and you have to be able to read Japanese. Is all I can say. All right, back to the art. Back to the art. Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, there are a bunch of good compilations of Initial D at this point for folks to read. This won't be 100% accurate to that. This is like I'm looking at the big part of the shape and going like, yep, that's an AE86, but I'm not going to put like the Toyota badge or anything and make it official or try to get every detail right. I'm intentionally not trying to get every detail right because, there are licenses and stuff. So it's meant to be evocative of something, which you're allowed to do. You might even be allowed to draw the literal car, but I'm not going that far. I'm just sort of going for a vibe, going for an 80s vibe. And a lot of artists would probably use a much thicker brush or something at this point, but I'm actually liking the result this is giving me with the pen because there are little bits of the paper that are still showing through, and I'm getting like a motion to it, a very small amount, but up close it looks like to me the wheels are in motion. Like you get it because I'm drawing lines in the direction that the car would be turning. So anyway, that was intentional. Everything I do is intentional. They're all good decisions. Does anybody out there have a favorite car that they've owned? I know sometimes people fall in love with their cars, or they're just in retrospect go like, you know what? I loved everything about that car, from how it handled to how it felt. We form such attachments, at least in this country, to our vehicles. It's wild. Hopefully, I drew a BMW E30 recently. Cars are difficult to draw, but so satisfying when you're finished. Oh yeah, I agree with you there. I had a 4-door Saturn sedan that I loved and had long after the company died, but it was tragically T-boned to death. I'm sorry. Am I remembering right that the Saturn was like they didn't haggle on the price? Like when you bought it new, it was like the price was the price, and you got lifetime warranty. I'm pretty sure that was what their deal was. I'm not 100% sure. I'll always own a Jeep Wrangler. There's a lot of kinds, though, of the Jeep Wrangler, but I know what you mean, yeah. If I was going to own a Jeep, yes, it would definitely be a Wrangler. I think, Jeannie, wasn't your first car a manual two-door Wrangler? I think that you did have, I think that your first car was a Wrangler. Am I remembering right? If you're still in the chat. Just talking to my sister. Never owned a car before, but I love the look of 1930s style cars. The shapes of older cars are super fancy looking now. Yeah, it's amazing the decisions that have been made for that. I was right. Okay, yes, you had your Wrangler. My sister's first car, a manual. Doesn't sound that crazy, maybe, but these days, as somebody that sells cars, let me tell you, very few people want a manual now. They just don't. And I like driving a manual. I've gotten to like it. But yeah. Let's see. I had a black Ford Mustang that I pretended was my V8 Interceptor. Got it. Yes. Yes, that's what I thought. 99 Jeep Wrangler Sahara. Oh, you had the Sahara's a good trim. Yeah. That's nice. That's nice. Sometimes I think about getting something like that. I don't know, though. There's a few really long lines on this piece. It makes me so nervous because I don't want to like get it. I don't need it to be perfectly straight, but there's some curves to it. So I just sort of have to try pulling, or not ideally, but sometimes pushing. But like, yeah, just try to use my whole arm for some of these moves. America is such a car-based society, which you only start to realize as you visit other countries that like have cars but don't rely on them the same way that we do, because most countries have a much better rail system or subway system than we do. It's interesting. Our car business, essentially, like historically in America, just got really powerful really fast, and influenced a lot of the decisions on everything from highway to mass transit. And very interesting to read up on. We're also a nation that's very spread out compared to most nations. So we do sort of rely on driving a lot more than most people. You know, some people would be like, an hour away? Oh, I don't have any vacation time. And we'd just be like, an hour isn't that much. I only wanted a manual, so I had to learn on Dad's Corvette. That's right. I remember that he did let us practice on that. That's right. But you got a lot better since that was your car. Like you're. I would still say to this day, you're going to be a better driver of any manual car than I am. Probably. You've just got more experience. There are plenty of people who have lived in this city their whole lives who've never learned to drive because there's no need. My friend Jason grew up in New York City and then went to college. So he didn't get his driver's license to something like age 25 because he just never needed it. He never needed it. Have you been affected by CDK being down at all? I can't piece that together what CDK is. So I don't think it is affecting me because I don't. What's CDK? Somebody help me out. It's not leaping into my mind what that would be. Yeah, I feel dumb, but I can't piece together what that is. car dealership software. Oh, I guess we probably just don't use it then at my place. Yeah. Finn's favorite car, an '05 Honda Odyssey. Nothing special. My friends called it a mom van, but it was what I drove through high school, and it hauled my band's gear like a champ. People look down on minivans, but I feel like there's a lot to like about minivans. I have customers that, you know, have a growing family, and so they need the seats of something like a minivan, but all they want is a big SUV. And I'm like, that's fine. You know, you can get whatever you want, but you're telling me that you're on a budget, and an SUV is much more expensive than a minivan, and a minivan is super comfortable. I'll say that, like super comfortable and like a lot cheaper. But some people just don't want to hear about it. But I don't think that they're bad in general. I don't have a bias against a minivan. I think that they make a lot of sense for certain situations. My wife just got me a bunch of new tools, including a nice kneaded eraser. And so, of course, what did I do? I left it upstairs. That's all right. I can deal with that later. Thinking of art, my wife is actually up at her gallery in Seattle tonight. She is gonna swap out some of the paintings that she has up there. Time to put some new ones up because she's been selling some. People who own minivans love them. I think you're right. They're comfortable, and I don't know. A lot of them are pretty darn reliable. So anyway, I look, they're for families mostly, but also, yeah, if you had like a band or something, take out a couple of the chairs, and boom, you can like haul a bunch of stuff. It's probably still going to be a little more fuel efficient than your average truck. Now, if you need a truck, trucks are awesome. Trucks are cool. But not everybody needs a truck. Everybody thinks they need a truck till they see how expensive they are. Everybody thinks they need all-wheel drive, but it depends on where you live and how you're using your vehicle. Not everybody needs it. Anyway. Enough talk about these cars. What, just because I'm drawing a vehicle, we're going to talk about vehicles? Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. That's what that is. Yeah, practicality is important. A lot of truck drivers here in Florida are some of the most dangerous people on the road for no particular reason. Yeah. I'm selling you. Yeah. Oops. I paid for all of the wheels, and I'm going to drive all of the wheels. Personally, my one rule is I always make sure that anything I sell a customer has 4 wheels minimum. I will not sell them a vehicle that has less than 4 wheels. Just being stupid. I need to. I didn't want to do this, but I have to run to the restroom down the hall. What is the most sold car at my job? It depends on the time of year. No, we don't sell motorcycles. It depends on the time of year. But in general, probably something like I don't know, like a Honda CRV, or like Toyota Camry or something. So I hate doing this, but it's either that or just end the show now. Just give me a few minutes, folks. I'm sorry about that, but I just need to run to the restroom, and then I'll be right back. Thank you. Sorry. Oh, who are you? What? How'd you get in here? Hello? What? No, please. Oh, no! Just kidding. Hi. Sorry about that. Yes, I'm sure my sister has said something about it being awkward or embarrassing. I had to use the bathroom. What can I say? That's the fun of a live stream. That's embarrassing. Oh well. Hopefully, you all had a couple interesting things to discuss. And if not, I apologize for being a lackluster host this once. This once in my life. We'll get back to the work, the craft. Talked about the heat dome. It's just hot everywhere. Yeah, it's rough. It's rough. I think I read that the top temperature a human being can basically operate in before they can't the body can't cool itself is about 118 degrees Fahrenheit, but if you add humidity that drops down quite a bit, into like the 90s, depending on how humid it is. So pretty serious stuff. Hope everybody out there is drinking water. I'm not, but that's because I'm crazy. No, I'm drinking water. And my sister's trying to tell me that I need something called electrolytes. What, just because she works in the medical field, she thinks she knows best? We played I Spy, yes. A real artist never goes to the bathroom. That's what I hear. That's what I hear. Next time I'll just soil myself, I promise. Ugh, tell me about it. You know, there having lived in different parts of America, I'll tell you that there's a completely different culture in our deep south because it's warmer and there's way more humidity, and people literally just move slower than what I grew up with in more the Boston area. Celsius, what is this? George Washington fought hard to make sure that we did not have to use anybody else's system of measurements. Have you guys seen that one SNL sketch from this year? I think it's among the funniest skits that SNL has ever done. I'm trying to remember. It's a stand-up comedian that was the host, and he plays George Washington, and he's trying to just sort of motivate his troops, you know, at night around a campfire, just a few troops, and he's telling them that his dream for America involves using its own unique system of weights and measures. And he just goes into excruciating detail about how insane our measurements are and how little we actually know about what they convert to. Yes, thank you, Finn. It was Nate Bargatze, who I'm still not actually very familiar with, but if you just want to look up a hilarious sketch, in my opinion, one of the best SNL has done, it's George Washington talking about weights and measures. It's really, really funny. Oh, trust me, I'm very aware as I get older of just how utterly bizarre it is that we use measurements that literally nobody else does. It's very, very strange. Like, I understand the logic of our system independent of everything else, but it's so strange. I have still not read all my comics. I've read a few of them. So anyway, yeah. But I do recommend that sketch. I know a lot of people don't watch SNL regularly. I still do. I still do. I find it an interesting look at what's culturally relevant in a sense. I can't honestly claim that it is always the best sketch comedy, because for that, there's so many other examples of things that have been funnier, but it does still have talented people trying, and every once in a while they put one out that's really good, which makes up for some of the crud. I like it. I hope I've come up with a layout here where there will be a good amount of blacks versus whites for balance. We'll see. We shall see. That's the best singing I've ever done. I'm going to have to put some serious thought into what kind of a license plate will be on this. I don't have that part figured out at all. We'll see. I'm not there yet. That'll probably be one of the very last things I do on this piece. When I do these gloves, since they're so close to the foreground, I want to do a lot of, I don't know what term I'd use, but like pointillism to put in like real texture to the gloves, which will probably take ages and ages, but I think the ultimate result might end up looking really good if I really take my time and just drop in a million billion dots. And I'll probably use some different line weights. The name of the robot that used to appear in comic tropes. Oh, Infotron, because I needed somebody to relay just boring old info one time. And so I gave him the name Infotron. And then since I built it, I wanted to keep using it. And then I found out that there was another comic book channel at the time. I don't know if it really still exists now that I think of it. Something simple like Comic Book Girl, or I think that was it. It was something close to that anyway. She like had a regular robot sidekick and would talk about comics. So I said, oh, people will think I'm just trying to like rip something else off. So I just sort of stopped using it, like except here and there, like just because it was funny to me and I had that prop. I would have liked to have kept using it, but it just didn't feel like it made sense. Okay, a million people said Comic Book Girl 19. Okay, so I was close. Is she still making content? Because I feel like I don't know. I come across recommendations for other YouTube channels that do comics. It's not that I read them, but I come across those recommendations a lot. And now that I think of it, I can't think of hers. Maybe she just transitioned to something else. I don't know. Once or twice a year. I think you have to update something like every 6 months or YouTube might delete your channel. So if you just like do the minimum, you can at least still, get ad revenue based on your existing library. So I get that. Got it. Interesting. Thanks for that. Yeah, it doesn't quite mean anything because I didn't watch the channel. It's more just like because it was recommended, I checked one out, and like instantly I was just like, oh, that's sort of a 1950s robot. And I go, is there more? And I start clicking and I go, oh, she always has that. I go, I better not use Infotron much. So that's sort of why I stopped using it, is I created it in a vacuum. If anything, it was probably inspired by stuff like Conan O'Brien's use of goofy, like, puppets and mascots and things like, what do you call it? Mine, Pimpbot 5000. Pimpbot 5000 was Conan's robot. So that's a little bit more of what influenced me to come up with one. But yeah, I just sort of phased it out over time. It's also not easy to add sort of a second character, because that means that I have to record both parts and somehow edit it all together, which wasn't really fun. It was a lot of work, but I liked the result, but it wasn't like fun to make. So I sort of just streamlined the show a little at a certain point. The only thing I'll say is I do miss just sort of like adding goofy comedy, because that stuff really keeps me interested. And if I was doing this show with, say, like, a producer or something like that, yeah, I would probably be doing more goofy sketches and stuff, because it would be somebody else's responsibility for making sure how to make it work. But as soon as you become the editor and stuff, you're like, well, that's going to take this long, and then the episode will take this much longer, and you start just like applying more rational decisions to everything you do, which isn't a fun way of being creative. I didn't upload for years and my channel never got deleted. Okay. Was it monetized too? Because maybe I'm thinking like there's a monetization aspect of it, but I don't know. I'm going to just, like, I want to vary it up a little, so I'm just going to draw the outline of some of these gloved hands and stuff like that. I just need a break. Need to do something a little different. Seen any good movies lately? I've definitely watched plenty of trashy ones. Have I? There was one I think I talked about briefly on my last weekly live stream, where it was just an Indian action movie called Kill, and I wouldn't call it exceptional or anything, but I would say that it was the action of it was pretty well done. Yeah, I liked the action of that. That was kind of interesting. Other than that, I don't know. Oh, I mean, all I'm doing is just sort of pulling from all the different news sources and trying to like break down what the most interesting stuff is. Looks like my this eye like looks irritated. It looks very red. I don't know why. Feels okay. Yep, we've got San Diego Comic-Con around the corner. I'm not going to that, but that always has some interesting news coming out of it. You watched the latest Godzilla versus Kong. Yeah, I mean, it just is what it is at this point. It's a lot like that 1970s Godzilla stuff where it was just kind of goofy action. It's amazing how different it is from the first American Godzilla. I mean, the first in the current series. Yeah, they definitely have gone in a direction. but it seems to be paying off business-wise. So what you gonna do? I can't tell what mainstream audiences really want right now because the movies that are hitting big, I I just don't understand what where I don't know. I just can't figure it out. It seems like the biggest movies of the year are like Bad Boys 4 and Inside Out 2. So maybe it's as simple as just people like sequels. Maybe that's all it is. We'll see. I'm excited for the Wolverine Deadpool movie. I have to admit, I hope that it's good. I don't want to. I want to go in it knowing as little as possible. I know that there are spoilers out there and things like that. I don't want to come across that. Casting news is one thing, but I don't want to come across any spoilers for the movie. I want to go into that blind and hopefully that's a good summer blockbuster type movie. It seems like it was just sort of approached a lot differently than some of the other MCU stuff. I think it really benefits from being its own beast. Like it's connected to the MCU, but it's its own thing. You know what I mean? It wasn't. It. it I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it is when it comes out. I'll wait till it comes out. Thank you for popping in. Oh, Godzilla minus one. Is that what you're talking about? Godzilla minus one is fantastic. Oh yeah, Furiosa was great, but that one bombed. Maybe bombed is a little overstating it, but it's if it makes money, it's gonna just sort of squeak by. It's just gonna squeak by. Um, I'm actually also, just to be clear, I'm gonna cut this stream at 7 because I did just agree to go with a buddy of mine to go see the movie Long Legs tonight. I like horror. That one looks pretty good. We'll see. But yeah. Bombed is not overstating it. That's too bad. I thought, you know what? I'll just be glad I got to see it. It probably wasn't super likely that we were ever going to get more Mad Max beyond that. So I'll just sort of be glad that I got a little bit more. But it does disappoint me that it didn't do well because it was a good movie. And I would love to see more encouragement for weird, different type ideas. It was what it was. It's too bad that it didn't go bigger. I liked it. I liked it quite a bit. I do. I thought about it, and I still prefer Fury Road over it. But Fury Road I thought was pretty exceptional. We'll see. What else? Hey, Mike, nice to see you. I think Mike might also be doing, right, Mike, some illustrations for Street Wolves. This is for Street Wolves. Mike is a super talented artist, guys. What Went Wrong podcast mentioned George Miller is great with first installments, but has a history of his sequels not doing well. I'm trying to think. I mean, what movies has he done that has sequels? He's got the Mad Max movies. He did Happy Feet, and he did the second Babe movie, right? But I don't think he did the first Babe movie, so I don't know. Yeah, but I don't. You are cool. Yeah, this is an illustration for like just sort of setting the scene of like a, a city, a 1980s sort of city. I think the second one did do well, but I think it also had an outsized impact on a lot of us here in America because it aired on cable a lot. So they may have sold it for somewhat cheap to cable and HBO and stuff like that. And the third one definitely didn't do that well. Beyond Thunderdome didn't do that well. And honestly, like even though a lot of us love Fury Road, that also was not a big hit. It was critically acclaimed, and the people that saw it love it, but that was not like a huge blockbuster. So there's something there. It's a little bit of a crime that we never got George Miller's Justice League movie. He had that fully cast, and I don't know if the cast was perfect, but the idea of it was really cool, which was basically Lex Luthor, because he hates Superman so much, he finds the White Martians, as in Martian Manhunter's enemies, the people that wiped out his people, and he summoned them to Earth, and it was like based on that sort of Grant Morrison JLA arc where the White Martians shapeshift into new superheroes and win over the public, and they each sort of have, each of the JLA has an opposite. That I think that would have been a very simple, straightforward, good idea. I'm glad you're drawing a car. The last car Illo I did for Street Wolves killed me. The big splash of turbo and all the cars following her. You're an amazing artist, though, Mike, so it's worth it. Yeah, yeah. Well, George Miller did Happy Feet, Babe 2, and the Mad Max movies. His interests are all over the place. When you look at his filmography, it's not the biggest filmography because he takes his time. Like, he's closer to an auteur that really wants to hold on to all of the idea, but he's done a lot of different genres. He's not pigeonholed into just doing one thing, and he doesn't want to be, and I respect him for that. I think he's a really talented director. I think that like the JLA movie he did like also involved Luthor hacking Batman's computer to find all of the JLA's weaknesses. So they had like aliens that were their opposite, plus they all knew the JLA's weaknesses. And I don't know. I think that sounds like a really simple, strong idea for a team hero movie. It sounds a lot better to me than what we actually got. Who knows? Just saying. Just saying. Who's a director that you like loved at least the vast majority of what they've done? Your Scorsese's, your Hitchcocks, your Kubricks, your Raimi's, like, uh, Boyle or whoever. Like what's a director that you'll always pretty much watch? I'm sure that, well, I mean, that was just the era the cars were being built. So yeah, I get that. 3,000 Years of Longing, I liked okay. It wasn't exceptional, but yeah, I liked it. Yeah, I that's true. I'll always watch a Tarantino movie, no question. No question. Tim Burton, see, he's become very hit and miss. Oh, no question. Akira Kurosawa, fantastic. Sam Peckinpah, yep, definitely has a style. Can totally get that. Yep. Yeah. I would say in terms of modern directors, for me, one would be Christopher Nolan. Another would be Yorgos Lanthimos. I'd have to think about some others that like are always, but yeah. There's some that I usually like, but not always, like say a Wes Anderson or something. Like I usually like it, but not always. And then I've got another question once this one people have some time to answer. What else? Okay, there's a bunch of answers in here. Hold on. Second for Kurosawa, Leon, Bava, Murnau, Fritz Lang. Yeah, those are cool. Edgar Wright. Edgar Wright does good stuff, doesn't he? Oh, Bong Joon-ho. How did I forget? Very consistent. Miyazaki. Exceptional track record. Henry Selick. Yeah, not as big an output as some of these others, but sure, Henry Selick. Raimi, I'm there. I think that like Spielberg, it's easy to hate on, but he's made so many exceptional movies, and I don't know that he's made really much that I would call outright bad. Some of them I might not be as invested in, but there's only one or two that I would call bad. Del Toro, Guillermo del Toro. Yep, worth waiting for when he delivers one. Edgar Wright. Jon Favreau. You know what? That's a really interesting choice, Gene, and he has done some good stuff. It's like the stuff he does tends to be better than I'd expect it to be. Like for instance, these Disney movies that they're doing these days where it's like done live action version of their animated films. His one for Jungle Book, I would say, is easily out of all of those things by far the best. Howard Hawks. Nice. Oh, you know what? Yeah, Denis Villeneuve. I've never disliked any of his films. That's true. I have to admit, I don't think I know who Makoto Shinkai is. Yeah, but Raimi also pulls inspiration from other guys. Like I think that I can see, say, Sam Peckinpah or something in some of Raimi's shots. Michael Bay. I mean, he definitely does stuff a lot of people like. Alexander Payne, I've seen a bunch of his. Werner Herzog. I haven't seen it yet. No, I'm behind. But thanks for jumping in, Mike. I will. I definitely want to as soon as I get some time. Ridley Scott may have sort of left me behind at this point. Like I did not like his new Alien movies. I wanted to, but I didn't. I didn't really love them. I wanted to. Is he doing Gladiator 2? Is that Ridley Scott? I haven't even seen that trailer yet, but I know it's coming out. And that, huh? I should watch the trailer. I should watch the trailer. Where was I? No, I haven't seen Chef. I'm aware of it. I know what you're talking about. I sort of know the broad strokes, but I haven't seen it. John Ford, absolutely. Great director. Yeah, could really make something feel epic. Zathor is a classic. I remember UMDs. Jungle Book is the only one that made sense to make live action for me. Yeah. Boy. Oof. Matt Reeves. Cool. Yeah. Farrelly Brothers. Okay. Terry Gilliam. Very interesting. He is. Okay. We'll see. James Cameron is definitely good. I've never disliked any of his movies, but I have to admit I'm not a massive fan of Avatar. It doesn't like enrapture me like, oh, I wish I could go to Pandora. That doesn't exactly speak to me, but I don't dislike them. They're fine when they're in front of me. Everything else he's done, I found interesting. Joe Dante, absolutely. Mel Brooks, a lot of good stuff. Few, I did see it. Yes, talked about it. I think on one of my episodes, like maybe 2 weeks ago. Looks very interesting. Caped Crusader. Yeah, looks very cool. I agree. A little more adult, a little more detective-y. Well, yeah, I like that. That's kind of you. Brian De Palma made a lot of good. Some of these guys, I feel like they've had some great hits and a few that I'm just But yeah, directors are interesting to me. Just sort of looking at how it's coming out and making sure that I'm not missing anything. Thanks for joining me on this, folks. I know it's probably not for everybody to watch somebody else just draw and chat, but ideally my goal is to just sort of make it a chill experience where we just hang out and talk, you know? But I really appreciate you being here. It means a lot to me. I hope everybody enjoys the next comic tropes that I've uploaded for my patrons. I think it's I hope I did a good job. Sometimes when I first finish it, I'm like, yeah, I did a good job, but then I have to keep moving on to the next thing, so I never dwell on it, and it can become very hard to remember what I've done and what I haven't at this point. Um, there's a good library at this point, and it's very hard to remember. Paul Verhoeven, James Whale, David Fincher. Any movie podcasts you'd recommend, like about making of movies behind the scenes? I don't know about any of those, but that's a great question, Mike. If anybody has a podcast recommendation for sort of a behind the scenes uh, episode or podcast, I mean that's a great idea. I mostly listen to comedy podcasts about movies when I have time to listen to them. Although even then, it's been a little while since I've had time. There was a time when I used to have a bigger commute, and I would listen to "How Did This Get Made?" "We Hate Movies." Um, yeah, I don't know if I can think of any others right now, but there was a time when I did that, and I liked it. All right, sorry, I was just focusing on something there. Your video on Fletcher Hanks got me into his work. Other Golden Age stuff. Thanks. That's nice to hear. That's nice to hear. Blank check with Griffin and Dunn is worth it for the Fury episode alone. Never heard of that one. Did you see? Yes, I watch everything Red Letter Media does. I will admit, I'm a big nerd for Red Letter Media. That reminds me, I literally had a dream last night that I was like hanging out with the Red Letter Media guys. I dreamt that I was hanging out with them. And then all of a sudden, Mike started sort of insulting me and implying that I was sort of like inviting myself over. And I felt like really guilty, like I was wasting people's time. And I'm like, oh, like what a weird dream to have. I have no idea what that would imply or mean. But I guess I fear annoying the RLM guys because I respect them so much. Just make this car a little less perfect, right? Oh my god! Yeah, Mike probably would make fun of me. But it was like I don't remember it much because it's a dream. So even as I relay it, like it sounds very like, it doesn't matter what it sounds like actually. What matters is that like emotionally it really like made me feel like unwanted and hurt. And I don't know why my brain would want me to think like that. Oh, brain, you be terrible to me. Come on, brain. Help me out a little here. Cars are hard to do. Just to be clear, I definitely looked at several pieces of reference to map this out, and then I made some specific choices on what to adjust a little bit because I didn't want to just trace a Toyota AE86. That wasn't quite what I was going for here. I wanted to definitely give the impression of that car, but I didn't want to like go so deep into the weeds that it was just a traced recreation. I hope I'm getting away from that with what I'm doing here, but we'll see. I'm having a good time though. I really appreciate this. The company and just drawing makes me feel good. So two things make me feel good: busting ghosts and drawing. And I rarely get to bust ghosts anymore. They're just, I don't know. I just feel like we're living in an age where there's just not as many uh, ghosts running around town. Maybe that's just where I live, but I feel like I'm never coming across ghosts anymore. I think you should shout out your adorable furry nephew today. Yes. So today is the birthday of my sister's cat, Ricky Bobby, and he is 18. An 18-year-old healthy kitty. Folks, 18 is very impressive for a kitty. So let's give Ricky Bobby a happy birthday. I'm happy for you. Look at him go. Look at him go, right? Yes. If well, to be clear, he used to have a brother. You guys could probably guess the brother's name. Happy birthday. There you go. You like that, Jeannie? I hope that helps make your day. That's awesome. Thanks, folks. That's very kind of you. Thinking of pets, I have somewhat recently discovered that I do still have some koi, and I thought that I had lost them all about this time last year. I thought possibly there were one or two sort of babies in there, and there were, and they've grown up over the winter. So I actually have, it looks like maybe 5 koi in my pond. So I need to like refurbish it, but that's pretty awesome. Wow. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Thank you, Steve. Doing all right. Thank you for that. I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew. Diet. Diet. Always diet. I think you guys will like the next, what do you call it? I think you'll like the next trash movie bonanza that Jim and I recorded this morning. I think it's pretty funny. But before that, we are in the process of uploading one that we already recorded. So there's going to be another one like this weekend. Is there a Do Zero? I didn't even know that there was. Is that? Okay. Didn't know that. Let's see. I was just seeing what time it was. Okay. I can do another 15 minutes, but then I'll probably have to get going. Bear with me. I'm just doing another thing here real quick. Huh. I was looking at like the file on this. Looks kind of funny. That's weird. Oh well. Where was I? There are Do Zeros. How about that? Don't want to derail the conversation, but just wanted to show my appreciation for all the wonderful content you put out. Hope this can help out with the koi. And happy birthday, Ricky Bobby. Of course it can. That's very, very kind, Edward. Thank you so much. That's really, really nice. That's really, really nice. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you. Oh, I'll also have to do another unboxing soon on this channel because I've got at least 10 packages that have come into the PO box since I did one last. So I'm going to have to do another indie showcase pretty soon. Yeah, I love doing those. Trying to give people a shout out and a platform that means a lot to me. So I'm excited to do that. Mike, great talking to you. Thank you for being here. You help make it better. Yes, another unboxing. Hello, Mandela. If I didn't say hello to everybody, it's just because I'm mostly focused on my drawing. I am not ignoring anybody. I promise you that. But I just also wanted to explicitly state it that I'm never going like, I'm not going to say hello to that person. I would never do that. I would never do that. Anybody going to any Comic-Cons the rest of this summer? There's still a few. There's of course San Diego, but there's I want to say Dragon Con is still coming up, I think, and some other local ones. I'm not doing any, but I'll live vicariously through any of you that are going to a convention. Let me know. Let's see. Here we go. Going to a local con tomorrow. Very fun. I hope you have a great time. Fan Expo in Toronto. That's a big city. I hope you guys have some good guests there. That's nice. Let's see. I came here to draw and bust ghosts, and I'm all out of ghosts. Fan Expo Toronto. Good chance I go. Oh yeah, yeah, because you're up in northern New York, right? Like sort of more the Buffalo area, so it wouldn't be super far, right? Local cons can be great. Local cons can be great. Gives you more time to like actually talk to the people that are there and sort of explore a little bit more of the artist alley indie side of things, in my opinion. And I really enjoy doing that. You find some real passion on display with small press and self-published stuff. A lot of passion. I've got the big broad strokes of this car in place. That feels kind of good to have mapped it out without, in my opinion, making any big mistakes. My art style tends to be sort of, I'll say that, like, without trying to flatter myself, I try to go for a clean, realistic style, but that also is very unforgiving. If you make a mistake, it just doesn't really look good. So, yeah. You are going to the Piscor Con in August. Great, great. Good luck on that. That's I hope it's good. I would go if I was on the East Coast. Yeah. More passion, more energy. Syracuse, Rochester, and Buffalo, similar cities that come in small, medium, and large. Right, right. I understand that, Beowulf, and I'm sorry that that's something that you're doing. It's good that you're taking care of yourself. That's more important. You can read a lot of this stuff at home, have stuff delivered, go to events like that are more digital. But yeah, I think that Artist Alley is probably also my favorite part of the convention. My second favorite part has become just watching the amazing cosplay. Just so much good, impressive cosplay. And then I would say when I go to the bigger conventions, what I'd like to see is a big presence by the bigger publishers, because they tend to have, ash cans and interesting promo stuff, and certainly big names. But a lot of conventions, the big publishers have pulled back on. Yeah. New York Comic Con is pretty bonkers. Do you? I've never been brave enough to attempt cosplay, but honestly, I also don't think I'd have the skill to put a cosplay suit of any substance together. Like these days, that stuff's really impressive when people make it themselves. I'm just going Saturday, but yeah, good for you. I hope you have a great time. Yeah. Yeah, that can be a real concern. I see a couple people saying that they're the smells, and unfortunately, that is legit a real issue, which is crazy. But yes, I think I'm going to err on the side of caution with this one and use a ruler. And maybe I should have only been doing that for this. Sometimes if you just hand do it, you get pretty close, and you get like those little mistakes are a little energy. It's a balancing act for sure. I recall when New York Comic Con had the weightlifting convention downstairs. Did they? Downstairs? I've been to all of them except I think one. Yeah, there was one at like the first one back after COVID. I skipped at the last minute. I had a ticket and then I was like, I don't want to risk it this year. So I did skip that one. Chris, no judgment, no joke. Top 3 characters you'd cosplay. I'm not joking with this. I would cosplay as Paste Pot Pete if I could do a really cool costume because I joke about it so much on this show. I think that that would be a legit fun one, and it could look cool. Not Trapster, but Paste Pot Pete. I want to say, let's see, what else could I do? I don't feel like I've got the look because I've got like the beard, and I could always take off glasses, I suppose, but I I don't know, like, and I'm not like, like ripped or anything. So I'm really stumped as to who I could look like. It would have to probably be a masked character that was it more in like, like an armor or something. Cause I can't get away with wearing spandex and pretend I'm Spider-Man. I just couldn't pull that off. So I mean, like if I was wealthy, maybe something like Iron Man could be fun. I could pull that off. Is there anything else? Paste Pot Pete, Iron Man. Um, if I don't know, get a professional makeup person and put me in Hellboy outfit or something like that. I don't know. I could cosplay as John Byrne. That sounds like a blast. Get some help with if I knew, like, as a close friend, a cosplay person, I would definitely like pay them to make me an amazing costume, and then I would do something like that. That would be fun. That would be fun. It would be more fun for me to go in cosplay if I didn't have to like paint like Joker or something. I don't really want to do a lot of paint. I don't like being in that stuff. And then I wouldn't really want to wear a mask. I'd still sort of want to be unobstructed, my view and my vision and stuff like that. So ideally, yeah. Oh, it's an interesting idea. Dan Drayberg Owl. I probably could. Yeah. I probably could do that. A big fat hairy dude who dressed as Wonder Woman. Well, yes, I understand that. I do. And I mean, I could do something like that, but that wouldn't be fun for me. I don't dislike it or anything, but I don't think it would be fun for me. I don't think I'm quite big enough to be Kingpin. That's the thing. I'll make you a pail with the word paste on it. Costume done. I don't think so. I don't think so. Casey Jones is cool, but I think that the best Casey Jones would have the hockey mask, and I don't want to walk around with the hockey mask, even if it was like up on my head most of the time. I just don't. That wouldn't be fun for me to deal with that. Because when I go to a convention, I usually only go for one day, and I very much want to make sure that I'm talking to people and buying comics and stuff. And it's a little trickier when you're in a big costume. It's a little trickier. I did. I think it looks potentially promising. Oh man, that's not a bad idea. If I could get a full Donatello suit, that would be bad ass. That would be fun. But it would probably also be very, very hot, I have to imagine. I'm putting some hash strokes across some of these sort of weird white outlines because I am not a huge fan of white outlines, but I wanted to imply that there were wipers and then also have shadows behind it. So I think that's a little better. I know that that's a very subtle distinction. Everybody wants me to cosplay as something. Well, introduce me to a Seattle area cosplay maker. That would be. Is there anybody else that I should play? I don't know. I can't really think of any characters that I don't feel like a connection, like I want to be that character. That isn't really a thing that I feel. Like, some people are like, I really relate to this character, so I want to dress up as that character. And I love that. I love that passion. I love that creativity. I'm glad I get to see that. I don't really feel that big connection. I probably do a version of Thor. I'd probably be more likely to pull off the Eric Masterson Thunderstrike if we're going deep into the lore of all of that. Alan Scott Green Lantern. I'd have to shave, wouldn't I? Doesn't he have a clean shaven face? I don't know. I don't want to have to shave. If I was in the shape I was 10 years ago, maybe I could just trim it up for the weekend and go as somebody like Green Arrow. That could be fun. I 10 years ago I was in good shape, but not as much now. Not as much now. All right, I think that's as much as I'm going to be able to get done tonight. I'm going to be doing further work on this. I've got to do the hand in the foreground that's adjusting the mirror, and I've got to do the mirror itself, and then I have to do all the background work for this street that I've mapped out, but I have a lot more to get done. But I'm still kind of happy that for now anyway, that we at least got most of the vehicle itself laid out. I think that's a pretty good accomplishment for one evening. I think that's a pretty good place to stop, all things considered. I'm having a good time. I hope that my friend likes it. Thank you all for being here. That really means a lot to me. Yeah, there's some interesting ideas being pitched. Kite Man and Exo Manowar. Very fun, very nice. Which classic Doctor would you like to cosplay as? Well, okay, so the one costume I do have is for Halloween one year, my wife did make me a 5th Doctor costume. So it's very handmade, more like paint instead of stitched and stuff. But I do have a pretty nice 5th Doctor cosplay suit. So I've worn that also I've worn that at 2 different Halloweens. So that was fun. I think that I've got an episode of the show where I wore it, and I'm trying to remember what it would have been. I swear I wore it. Maybe I wore it for an episode about Steve Dillon where I talked about his original Doctor Who character that was Absalom the Dalek hunter. Anyway, I think that's an episode of my show. All right, I got to get going, folks, but thank you very much for being here. It means everything to me. And take care. Keep reading comics. I'll be back soon. And keep your eye out for a new Trash Movie Bonanza and a new Comic Tropes this weekend. Both of those. All right. Peace.